The RTM regular monthly meeting for Monday, August 28th, 2023. Could the stand-in tonight, Ann Roche, please call the roll.
Edward Bateson, Marty Fury, Melissa Longo, Amy Ruggiero, William Gerber.
Here.
I'm sorry,
Amy Ruggiero's here.
Amy, thank you. Karen McCormick, Cindy Perham, Jeff Steele, Alex Durrell, Jeff Galdenzi, Tom Lambert, Sharon Pistilli, Laura Carson, Michelle McCabe, Marcy Spolier, Liz Ezema, Jennifer Barahona, Josh Garskoff, Joe Siebert, Jay Wolk, Steve Barris, Hannah Gale, Andrew, Graceffa, Lisa Havey, John Kuhn, Mark McDermott,
Here.
Joe Vergara, Karen Wackerman,
Here.
Cameron Chiniski, Hank Ferentz, Jim Myers, Nick Marabla, Christine Brown, Drew Georgiadis, Margaret Horton, Kelly Cinto, Ken Astorita, Peter Britton.
Kelly Cinto here. Sorry.
Thanks, Kelly. Brooks Baracino, Story Tallman.
Thank you, Ann. Could we all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag. Okay, thank you. We'll hop right into item number 2, to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 26, 2023. Can I have a motion to approve? Representative Lambert, seconded by Representative Siebert. Any comments, changes, questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take that to a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Representative Woke, Representative Garskoff. Okay, that motion carries. Item number 3, to consider and act upon amendments to the noise ordinance, Chapter 78 of the Code of the Town of Fairfield, sponsored by Jeff Galdenzi, District 3, Jay Wolk, District 5, Andrew Graceffa, District 6, Jill Vergara, District 7, and Drew Georgiadis, District 9. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Carson, seconded by Representative Graceffa. Okay. Do we have any comments, questions? Representative Vergara.
Jill Vergara, District 7. I have a few amendments to make. I had given this body these amendments in advance, so I hope you can follow along with me, but I will repeat as necessary. In 78-4, the noise level measurement procedures, it's subsection D. It begins with when measuring sound production devices that are plainly audible. At the end of that subsection, I'd like to add, comma, and determination of a violation is solely within the enforcement agent's discretion. In 78-5, noise level standards, subsection B. If the sound level exceeds the standards enumerated in section 78-5 or is specifically prohibited under section 78-8, a verbal warning shall be given to the emitter for the first offense, A citation notice of $100 may be given, that's the additional language for the second offense. And a citation notice of $250 may be given is additional language for each subsequent offense within strike 1 year, add 6 months of the last offense. Another addition to 78.6, administration, enforcement, and penalties. This would be a new subsection G. It would read, nothing in this chapter shall prevent the police department, because of the perceived nature of the offense, from proceeding not under the terms of this chapter, but under the provisions of CGS sections 53A-182, which sections relate generally to breach of peace and public disturbance. An additional subsection to 78-6H, the police chief or his/her designee will report annually to the representative town meeting at its January meeting on the full list of all noise complaints received, including location, date, and the disposition of all noise complaints processed. In section 78.7, exceptions, the subsection E should read, noise created as a result of or relating to an emergency, comma, including but not limited to home and commercial generators during periods of lost power. The next additions to the exceptions 78.7 are really come from their existing language from specific prohibitions. So the specific prohibitions that are currently subsections A, B, and C are to be moved to exceptions as RST. R, construction, demolition, power tools, and home maintenance tools operated between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on weekdays and between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on weekends or state or federal holidays. At all other times, these activities shall be subject to the nighttime noise level standards specified in section 78-5. S would read, blasting authorized by the state of Connecticut or the town of Fairfield conducted between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Again, this is another exception. T, landscaping and/or yard maintenance equipment operated between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. on weekdays and between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on weekends or state and federal holidays. At all other times, these activities shall be subject to the nighttime noise level standards specified in section 78-5. U, this also comes from language that already existed in specific prohibitions, and it was an exception carve out for our town playing fields. It would read, maintenance of town playing fields and public and private golf courses. In 78.8 specific prohibitions, we will strike the current subsection A beginning construction, demolition, power tools. A becomes what was B, blasting shall not be conducted between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. In that subsection, strike at all other times. Section 78.5 does not apply, provided that a permit for blasting has been obtained from the town. Strike section C, landscaping and our yard maintenance equipment. Strike, So what was subsection D in 78.8 becomes B. And it should read, impulse noise such as vehicle backfiring, engine racing, and unnecessary vehicular horn blowing that annoys or disturbs the quiet, comfort, or repose of persons. No impulse noise from any source may exceed 80 dBA during nighttime hours. No impulse noise may exceed 100 dBA at any time. Subsection E becomes C, and subsection F becomes D. And that's the end of the amendments that I'm proposing.
Thank you, Representative Agar. Do I have a second? Representative Bastilli. I'll open up to the body for questions or comments. Representative Siebert.
Joe Siebert, District 5, soon to become District 4. To my fellow Democrats and my fellow Republicans across the aisle, when I took this role in the RTM 3 terms ago, I've always believed and tried to instill a bipartisan approach to things like this. And all I have to say is, based on the level of effort and compromise and work that Joe Vergara and team has done to make this an ordinance that gives police the tools to be able to enforce the law, become more compliant with the state law, and respond to constituents' complaints, which I can tell you span beyond the beach area, span beyond Sacred Heart University, because I've heard it from my own constituents up in the Fairfield Ward area. So I think that a bipartisan vote should approve this ordinance. So I only ask that you do your bipartisan duty and pass this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Siebert. Representative Brown.
Representative Christine Brown from District 9. I wanted to just bring us back to why we're doing this. As my colleague, Representative Siebert, alluded to, we have a noise ordinance in town, but there's some problems with it, and that was the starting point for this whole thing. So the process really started with 3 goals: to give police more enforcement tools, to bring us into compliance with the state statute, and to respond to numerous constituent complaints. So I would hope we could all agree that these are worthy goals. And after a great deal of back and forth and fine tuning, we're now at a point where these ordinance revisions as amended address these goals. I'm going to be supporting this amended ordinance, and I urge all my colleagues to do so as well, to bring us into, not only to bring us into compliance with the statute, but most importantly, to support the police and to support the residents of Fairfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Brown. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 1. Jill, I want to thank you for the amendments. They were well received by our caucus. It's not often that we hear from the police department, especially the union, especially the police commission. It was very concerning when they stood up and had their concerns. I'm glad you addressed them. I do support this amendment. I think it's a good step in a direction to where you want to go. I'm still a little bit leery about the ordinance overall, but I appreciate the effort you and your sponsors put forth on this amendment, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bateson. Any other comments from the body? Is there anything online? Okay, seeing none, we're going to take this motion. I'm not going to read through all of that again. I think everybody's seen it and knows what's in front of them. So we're going to take this motion to amend the ordinance. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, looks like that passes 35-0-0. Thank you, Ann. Okay, that's just the amendments to the ordinance. We haven't passed the ordinance yet. There's no clapping at RTM meetings. It's not supposed to be fun. Okay, now I'll move to comments on the amended motion and the ordinance itself now, as it stands. Nobody in the body? Representative Bateson?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and Bates District 1. As I said 10 seconds ago, I do have concerns about this ordinance. I'm not going to be supporting the ordinance overall. I appreciate all the effort that went in. To me, there's just, the new concept of plainly audible. That gives me concern, especially during daytime. I tried to reconcile that. I just couldn't. I couldn't get around it. I understand the effort of what you're trying to get at, but I just think it's a little too restrictive for my taste. I just don't see the problem that needs to be addressed by doing it and expanding that type of coverage to daytime, and that does cause me concern. That's my primary thing. There's other things within this ordinance that, I can live with. I'm not seeing an overwhelming cry for this. I just don't. I see people in the audience. I understand their concerns, but this is an ordinance that's going to affect the whole town. And when we do stuff like this, I really would like to see more overwhelming evidence for it, or for a more cry for it, a public cry for it. I just don't see that in this. So that's where I am on that. I know there's a good deal of people in this room that do support it. And I respect that, but I'm just not there yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bateson. Representative Pistilli.
Sharon Pistilli, District 3. The reason for implementing plainly audible is to make the ordinance easier to enforce. So it does have an important goal so that our police officers don't have to carry decibel readers. We have received an overwhelming amount of emails from the public asking us to respond to our constituents' needs. And this is why we put so much work into the ordinance to positively affect the lives of our neighbors. That's what we're here to do.
Thank you, Representative Pistilli. Representative Astorita.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ken Astorita, District 10. So I think as I've expressed to this body throughout the process here, when we started it, I had some serious reservations about this ordinance. And, my initial gut reaction was, is this a solution in search of a problem? But understanding that noise is a potential issue in any community, I was open-minded about it and wanted to see where we could go during this process. And as we have moved through it, I will say from my perspective, I've seen the ordinance improve dramatically. And again, I'd like to thank Jill and the folks who worked on it for getting it to a point where I will support this. And the primary reason I am going to support it is because I was concerned about making police officers' lives more difficult. These individuals have enough to deal with already, but the proposed changes, the changes that we've now made to this ordinance give, in my opinion, the police the discretion that they need in order to make this a much more functional piece of legislation. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Representative Astorita. Representative Georgiadis?
Drew Georgiadis, District 9. This comment is mostly for the public. When we go out as elected volunteers, a lot of people ask, what does the RTM do? So aside from working on annual budgets, it's within our purview to craft ordinances, which are the town laws, and also to update town laws. Laws do need to be updated. And in this instance, it was very important to do the updates since a lot of the updates are to reflect state law, which we are required to follow. So I have been on the committee with Jill Vergara and the other committee members. We've worked incredibly hard. We spent a lot of time, and I'm very proud of the end product. And I just want to thank everybody, everybody had a lot of great questions. We got a lot of great input, and I'm very proud of where this ordinance, this update to the ordinance has ended up. And I think the constituents will be happy that we are doing what the RTM is required or requested or meant to do, which is ordinances. So, and thank you to my Democratic caucus. We've worked on some fantastic ordinances. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Representative Georgiadis. Representative Steele?
Jeff Steele, District 2. Just a couple of quick comments. Again, I was in support of the amendment because I think that made some important changes to this. If we go back to how this was proposed and generally how ordinances come about is ideally you do want bipartisan support. I don't disagree with anyone here. You want bipartisan support, but you don't necessarily get it if there's a ordinance or something that comes out that's just not supported by both sides. And, you know, that is ideal. There's a lot of things that come to the body where you want to have bipartisan support. You want to get the majority of the members to support it. But in this case, when this came out in January, many of us didn't support it. We just didn't support it. And so therefore, we didn't join the committee to review initially because we were not in support of it. I think as this developed and we realized that, you know, certainly we couldn't prevent it from happening, we did work in a little more of a bipartisan fashion. I think that's important too. And some of these changes that came about are because we got involved. And I think when we reviewed the ordinance to be updated, and I understand it had to meet state statute. I get that. And so we also took a look at many aspects of the ordinance that might need changes or updates too. And the term of may and shall came up, and that was very important. Having police discretion is crucial here. And there's a lot of things that are happening in town that we want to keep police attention focused on. You know, when you look at the level of crimes and issues for them to deal with, I wouldn't put noise up there with the carjackings and the thefts and the break-ins and all that. So I'm not in support of the ordinance. I know we have to meet state statute, but those items that don't meet state statute automatically revert to state statute. It's all going to go back to state statute anyway. So this ordinance makes a few things a little stricter than the state ordinance. And I don't believe in making things stricter. I don't believe in restricting things. I believe in promoting and opening and advancing versus restricting and prohibiting. And lastly, I don't see this as an overwhelming townwide issue. I know it's an issue. And I've looked at the data from the police department. This is primarily majority or a plurality of beach-related issues. There are other things in town. I'm a District 2. I haven't had one complaint. In 16 years being a member, I've never had one complaint about noise. So I know it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't. But I don't know that there's an overwhelming sense of townwide approval for this, for me to support it. So I think it's too restrictive. We don't know. The emails I've got 50% for, 50% against. That's not overwhelming to me. So I think when an ordinance gets approved or changes, it really needs a good, strong majority within the RTM, let alone the community. And I don't think that's necessarily the case here. So I'm going to be voting against the ordinance.
Representative Vergara.
Jill Vergara, District 7. Respectfully, I meticulously counted all of the emails, and I got a total of 67 coming into us. I had 44 in favor, 20 against, and 3 that were mixed, that they didn't really express one way or the other. They had some positives and negatives. So that makes 65% in favor and 20% against.
Representative McCormick.
Karen McCormick, District 2. While I do appreciate all the effort that's been put in place to modify this ordinance to make it less, I don't even know what to call the original version, but the original version was certainly not anything I could even consider. I've taken a look at the amendments. I take issue with the kind of what I would call, there's some misinformation here. I think that I got an email today where somebody cited that we are an outlier, that the town of Fairfield is an outlier with respect to noise ordinance. And that's just not the case. I mean, the majority of towns in Connecticut do not have their own noise ordinance. So to suggest that we're an outlier, I think, is misrepresenting the truth and is suggesting that Fairfield doesn't do enough in comparison to other towns in Connecticut. And the other issue that I have is, while the police have seemed to have come on board with respect to changes that were made, I go back to Chief Calamaris' statement when he appeared before us several months ago now. And he said that they don't need this ordinance to do their job. And I don't think that that's changed. I don't think that there's been a change in that opinion, that the police do not need this noise ordinance to be put in place in order for them to enforce the peace of the town of Fairfield. And there's not an overwhelming demand for this. There's a certain area of town in particular, and a couple of different other pockets, namely near Sacred Heart University, where people are bothered by noise. But I think that to suggest that this is an overwhelming demand from the taxpayers in Fairfield, despite the email adding up the emails, we have 63,000 citizens and we have 67 emails. I don't think that that is a mandate at all. So for all those reasons, I will not support this. And I think restricting freedoms requires a lot more than just an email poll and some people gathering up and, insisting that this is what they need for their peace and quiet in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. Any other comments? Anybody else in the body? Okay, I will open up to public comment at this time. We'll give you around 2 minutes and just state your name and address and hold your finger on the bottom of that microphone where it says push. So whoever wants to come up first, come on up.
My name is Michael Katz. I reside at 310 Autumn Ridge Road, a quarter mile from the football field to Sacred Heart University.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
My wife and I used to welcome the coming of fall when the season changed and the air got cool. But this fall, as every other fall, the fall has meant students arriving at Sacred Heart University and having bothersome noise, which I can hear from my home office while I'm trying to do work on a weekday morning. What compounds this annoyance is that there's no redress from the town. And we may be what you consider a small group of people who are bothered by it, but we are really bothered by it. And we really don't feel that we are getting attention. And we have called the police. The police don't respond to this at all. So again, on top of we have the noise, we have the frustration of not being listened to. So I urge you strongly to approve this new ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Katz.
Lucas Schulhammer, 685 Fairfield Beach Road. You guys know me by now. I was going to get up here and say a whole bunch about how this is, a great solution to a massive problem. That's, the current ordinance is out of compliance. It's an outlier. It really is. It's not enforced and it doesn't work. But I think it probably is a better use of my time to respond to some of the specific criticisms of the ordinance. So I'll start with Representative Steele, talking about how this was not proposed as a bipartisan measure. I have had Republican RTMs tell me directly they turned down the opportunity to sponsor this bill, so they weren't in the spirit of being bipartisan to begin with, and that it only impacts the beach area. If you have a crime like burglary or murder or any other thing that only happens in one neighborhood, you don't say, oh, well, this only affects there. It shouldn't pass a law against the whole town. Representative Karen McCormack, this is saying this is not an outlier. Only 66 towns have ordinances. That comment shows me you have not even tried to understand this. The 66 that have ordinances are the ones who adopted their own. If you don't adopt your own, the state ordinance applies. Therefore, every town in Connecticut has an ordinance that applies to it, regardless of whether or not the individual town did. So it's really frustrating that half of the RTM can go through so much effort to make this so abundantly clear, and you're not even trying to listen. And then finally, I want to address Ed Bateson's concerns about the plainly audible standards and in the beach area. And I think, I hear you. I think what Ed Bateson is not telling us is that he actually owns a rental property in the beach area through Blue Penguin Inn, LLC, 773 Fairfield Beach Road. It is in Lantern Point, which is the epicenter of all noise complaints in the town of Fairfield. And in fact, I actually pulled the police records for your property. It's been called for 4 noise ordinance violations. So we talk about how it's the current one. I think one of the most salient data points was of every 100 complaints, only 1 is enforced. So if this passes, then suddenly that 1 ticket becomes 100 tickets for Ed Bateson. He got away with it 99% of the time, probably.
Thank you, Mr. Schulman.
It's relevant. You've got conflicts.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you. You have to hold it, sir.
For how long? Oh, there we go. The whole time. Oh, no. Okay, I'll do my best. I did submit my testimony via email, but I also printed it out because there's a nice geo map. Should I hand it out again to the RTM as I'm speaking, or audience? I'm just going to grab my tea. Good evening, Alyssa Israel, 679 Roland Road. I'll wait a second until everyone gets a copy. I made extras for the audience if anyone would like it. Okay, great, thank you. Alyssa Israel, 679 Roland Road. I do live in the beach area, but that is a bit of a misnomer that we've been assigning a lot of the complaints to the beach area. When I was analyzing the data that Deputy Chief Smith gave me in 2019 and 2020, he had to go through all the different case reports, literally every single one, and, you know, determine what the cause of noise was and what streets they were on, et cetera. And we discovered that it wasn't just the beach area, it was really Reef Road and Fairfield Beach Road were the right way of expressing the data is that those two streets had a disproportionate amount of noise complaints. However, at least 70% of the noise complaints are in the entire town. And I think this geomap, which the police department gave the RTM in March of 2023, showing 2,300 complaints since 2017. And it really nicely shows, I wouldn't say it's nice, but you can really see that the complaints are town-wide, and you can see that they're concentrated in certain areas. So I do think 2,300 complaints is quite a lot, and some people are suffering from repeat offenses, as you've heard from the audience. And my husband and I have also been the victims of repeat offenses from streets that are not Reef Road and Fairfield Beach Road. So tell me when I'm running out of time.
Like now?
Oh, no. I guess I just wanted to address, I think certain members of the RTM are very concerned about sound emitters, somebody who's having a party, a small backyard party, or, you know, maybe children playing in the backyard. I want them to know that this ordinance also protects the sound emitter as well from frivolous complaints. And also, obviously, the sound receptor, if there's excessive noise, it protects them. And that's what the ordinance does. So do you want me to wrap up? Okay. Too bad I didn't get to talk a little more after 4 years of work. But I would just like to extend a special thank you to Jill Vergara for all of her hard work, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of research, and her RTM co-sponsors. And thank you for working with both parties in the police department, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate it. Peter?
Thank you. It's been a while.
Yeah, you were that out of practice?
It's been a while. Glad to have served. Okay, well, I'm chairman of the police commission, and I want to just thank Jill, to the police, to Captain Calamaris, and reaching, I think, a reasonable changes to this ordinance. We were not in support of this ordinance But I think based upon the changes that you brought to the commission and to the police department, I think we are now of the I think the main issue that we had was leaving it to the discretion of the police officers to take action. And I think the word shall was a real moving apart, and removing the word shall has really brought this into focus. We have a wonderful police force. We've got incredible police officers. We who sit on the police commission interview officers that come before us. Many of these young officers have master's degrees. Recently, one came in with a law degree. So we have very talented people on the police commission. And I think that the changes to this ordinance are now reasonable. And thank you both. Thank you for the RTM for I believe what seems to be a fair resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any other comments from the public? Sir?
Joe Fesco, 1241 Fairfield Beach Road. I first would like to address the comment from District 2 representative that there's no need. When I have called the police to complain about noise during the daytime, the officers basically said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do because there's nothing in the ordinance to support that. So I do believe that there should be some significant changes made. I guess the other thing that we should keep in mind is that the student behavior has changed significantly over the past several years, and that's with daytime drinking. The parties at night really are not such an issue. It's the daytime parties that exist. And that's why I think you should support this initiative, this ordinance. In terms of the sound meters and all that, now with new technology, any Apple Watch or any app can deduct any kind of noise pollution, excessive noise pollution. So that shouldn't be an issue in terms of, and I think having the officers have the discretion to make that determination. I don't think we need a noise meter. When my coffee cup rattles on my table at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, that's a pretty good indicator that the noise is excessive. So I encourage you to support the ordinance and the new amendments, and I hope you do.
Thank you.
That it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Declan Marr, 693 Fairfield Beach Road. I'm not a political guy, but this definitely has gone by political parties. I don't see a lot of people acting bipartisan. I have to think Jill Varga, for everything she's done, it's like, okay, she gets the assignment to try and figure this out. And then they throw it back and say, I don't like this, I don't like this. She tries to fix it. I don't like this, I don't like this. She tries to fix it. And it just seems crazy. It's so bipartisan that it's not even a part of the issue. It's Democrat and Republican. And we have an owner who gets up and who's a Republican, speaks against this, and he owns property right down at the beach. Absolutely, is you're right. Absolutely. Exactly. But I'm not one of the RTM members, and I'm not getting up speaking as an RTM member. I'm a property owner, and I think it's crazy that we're not in compliance with the state, and nothing's happening to change that. And I don't know why that's the case. This should be a bipartisan thing. It makes common sense to do it. And we have someone who's worked for months on this to try and make it work. And people just go back to her and say, let's look at this, let's change this. And it just seems crazy to me. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other comments from the public?
I have a comment on the WebEx, if you guys can hear me.
Name?
Sure, I can join the camera.
Social security number,
Yeah, something like that.
credit card.
Okay, I think the video turned on. You guys can see me. Erin Greenwald, I live at 138 Penfield Road. I want to echo what everyone else has said in thanking Jill for all of her hard work on this. I'm also not political, and I've stayed somewhat at a distance from this because it seems to have gotten so political. So I want to encourage everyone to vote for this. I think it's been very reasonable compromises and changes. And maybe just can share quickly my own personal experience moving here about 5 years ago, and then experiencing the weddings at Burr Mansion across the street go from something that have been infrequent to, every weekend. In 2021, it was 3 times a week. And at that point, as a new mom with 2 small children, trying to get them to go to sleep while our windows are shaking and, I have to listen to Wet Ass Pussy playing as my toddler is, running around the room asking what that means, trying to get them to go to sleep. It seems crazy that we can't find some common sense solutions for this. It's very strange to hear someone suggest that because it overwhelmingly affects a small part of town that no one else should care about it. That feels very calloused to me. I think there's been a lot of work that's gone in to make compromises, to listen to both sides. There were some very valid points and complaints made on early iterations. I think Jill and everyone has done a great job of incorporating that. And I think that what is proposed is very reasonable and common sense. So I encourage everyone to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Apologize for that. I don't have a mute button here. Fix that. Any other comments from the public?
Hi, I like to make a comment.
Okay, name please, address.
Hi, this is Mohsen Sheikh, 351 Autumn Ridge Road. So the success of Sacred Heart is great, and they are growing, they're expanding, but at the same time, I would appreciate the town if they considered the residents as well who live around Sacred Heart. And the noise on weekdays and on weekends, I think it gets louder on weekends. And we have small children, and it's really hard for them to go to bed if there's a game night. And then on weekends, it's just extremely loud. I don't know the political whole, my first time joining this, but I hope the town supports some control on noise. I think it's a great thing for the town if we have good laws that make the quality of life better for the residents, and that should attract more residents that drive more tax revenue. So I don't know where the disconnect is with growth of the town and the concerns. I personally don't agree with a lot of restrictions, but there has to be some control on the sound and the noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online? The audience here? Public? All good? Yeah, I'll bring it back to the body. Any further comments before we take this to a vote? Okay, seeing none. I'm not going to read the entire ordinance and the amendments made. But all those in favor?
Aye.
Might keep your hands up so we can get a count, unless you want to do a roll call vote in. It's always fun, isn't it? It's always fun, isn't it? Okay, let's do that.
Edward Bateson. Amy Ruggiero.
Against. Amy Ruggiero's against.
No.
Yes or no? Bill Gerber. Karen McCormick. Cindy Perham. Jeff Steele, Alex Terrell, Jeff Galdenzi, Tom Lambert, Sharon Pistilli, Laura Carson, Michelle McCabe, Marcy Spolier, Liz Ezema,
Yes.
Jennifer Barahona, Josh Garskoff, Joe Siebert, Jay Wolk, Steve Barris, Andrew Graceffa, Lisa Havey, John Kuhn, Mark McDermott, Joe Vergara, Karen Wackerman,
Yes.
Hank Ferentz. I'm sorry, I missed Cameron Chiniski. I don't think she's here. Jim Myers, Nick Marabla, Christine Brown, Drew Georgiadis, Margaret Horton, Kelly Cinto,
Yes.
Ken Estorita, Peter Britton, Story Tallman.
Mr. Moderator, this is Melissa Longo from District 1. I've been having problems logging in and staying in. I logged on at 8:03.
Okay. And your vote will?
Longo.
My vote is no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You here? We don't have her on. She wasn't here when attendance
I'm
was
here.
called, so.
I know, I'm sorry. Like I said, I was having problems logging on. I'm sorry, I logged on at 8:07. If we're still talking about me, sorry.
We're talking about Brooke, not Melissa.
Oh, sorry. Again, I'm having so many problems. I apologize.
Sorry, I can hear you.
Is
My
Brooke
vote-
on? Is she voting?
Yes, I am
Brooke
voting.
Spiracino, voting,
Yes.
voting yes.
Motion passes 27-9-1. Congratulations to all of you that worked so hard on this, especially Jill. Okay. Item number 4, the moderator, it was me, has referred a safe and livable streets ordinance sponsored by Bill Gerber, District 2, Cynthia Parham, District 2, Jeff Galdenzi, District 3, Tom Lambert, District 3, Sharon Bastilli, District 3, Laura Carson, District 4, Michelle Lapine McCabe, District 4, Elizabeth A. Zesma, District 4, Marcy Spolier, District 4, Jennifer Barahona, District 5, Joe Siebert, District 5, Jay Woke, District 5, Steve Barrett, District 6, Sandra Graceffa, District 6, Lisa Havey, District 6, John K. Kuhn, District 7, Mark McDermott, District 7, Jill Vergara, District 7, Karen Wackerman, District 7, Christine Brown, District 9, Drew Georgiadis, District 9, Margaret Horton, District 9, to the Legislation and Administration Committee under Rule 32 of the RTM Rules to Regulate. We'll be talking about that in the future. Item number 5, to consider and act upon any other matters presented to said meeting and which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. Yes, we tabled Mr. Foley last week for the FairTV Commission. He has decided to withdraw his name, so someone else will be coming back, hopefully in not too near future, because they need that 5th person on that commission. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Representative Woke, seconded by Representative Havey. Thank you all. Have a great night. See you September 11th for our committee meetings.
Thanks, Mark.
I believe that's the date.